It's the Andy Social Podcast, episode 210. This week's guest is with comedian, actor, radio personality, TV host, jack of all trades, entertainment guru, Mr. Cam Knight. And Cam came over to my place a little while ago, and we spoke about a whole range of different things, as you generally do when you have a conversation with another individual. But in particular, we spoke about metal, of all things. So my metal-loving mates will get a kick out of this episode. In fact, I should let Joel Green of Witch Skull and Armored Angel fame know of this episode, because he might enjoy some of the conversation. In addition to metal, we spoke about comedy, as you do. We spoke about Cam getting off the piss a few years ago and how life's changed for him. And a whole bunch of different things. Like, it was a great chat, and Cam's the top guy. I've been trying to tee up this podcast with Cam for, I don't know, at least a year. So we finally made it happen, and now he's been added to the list of all the amazing guests that have been on this podcast. So very stoked on that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the chat as well. You can discover more about Cam by going to camknight.com.au. You can also search for Cam Knight on Facebook. It's probably the most up-to-date stuff. All of his current shows and details are all on there. So go find Cam Knight Comedy on Facebook. His Straighty 180 show. So if you're listening to this on time, he's doing a show at the State Theatre in Perth on the 1st of May. And he's also doing 5 nights at the Factory Theatre in Sydney from the 6th to the 10th of May. I'm pretty sure that's part of the Sydney Comedy Festival. But all the information's on his website and on Facebook, so go and check all that out. And that's enough for me. Everything will be in the show notes. I'm going to dump a whole bunch of stuff. If you go to the website, andydowling.net, I'll put a few YouTube videos in there as well. He's been on TV. He's done a whole bunch of different stuff, so go and have a sticky beak. But here we go. Here's this great chat with the legend himself, Mr. Cam Knight. What bands, apart from Witch Skull, are you listening to at the moment?
I'm listening to a lot of Sarg.
Yep.
Listening to Graveyard. And funnily enough, this isn't doom, this is power metal, but I got into a band called Silent Night as well, who are from Perth.
I was going to bring that up with you, yeah.
And I love them.
Yeah.
They're great. And I've met Stu, who's in the band. He came to see one of my shows when I was in Perth. And I love them because they sort of remind me a little bit like, of Iron Maiden sort of vein. Yeah. It's excellent music. And also my son loves it. My 5-year-old son absolutely adores Silent Night, and he is convinced that the lead singer is a dragon, because on the cover of Conquer and Command, the album cover, there's a dragon on it. Yeah. And so he's like, that's the singer, cool. And I'm with it. I'm like all behind that. So every time we get in the car and he says, put on heavy metal, it's just that album, basically. If I try and put anything else on, there's some Sarg stuff that he likes as well. For some reason, he loves Devil Speed off Memento Mori, off that album, which is a pretty intense song if you go and listen to it.
Yeah.
It's a great song, but I also kind of go, what do you want to listen to this to?
Where's this coming from?
I love Zeal and Ardor as well, which is, that's black metal. And so Archie my son is also, there's a song, he says, put the Dead Body song on, which off Zeal and Ardor's last album, it's like, bring the dead body down to the...
That's a nice and catchy thing you can lock into.
Bring the dead body down low. And he, for some reason, I don't know, he's just into wondering, he's like, who's dead? What are they doing? And I was just like, they're washing him. They got to wash him,
Here
mate.
come all the questions.
And I know. Yeah. So there was times when I was kind of wondering if that was a bad thing for him to listen to, But essentially, like, when you think about it, like all of these bands, they sing about really fancy, fantasy ideas. There's dragons and demons and witches' covens and ravens, Witch Skull, Raven! And that's just what boys really love to get into. For a while, I was wondering if this was sort of bad. Because essentially it's good music, but some of the lyrics, if you listen to it, you're kind of like, oh, am I going to have a satanic son, or who cares if, that doesn't bother me at all because I'm listening to it. But then on the, conversely, he also loves Michael Jackson.
Yep.
And I was wondering, even if that was bad, now that he's bad, and so I was like, so then I started sort of, because he's watched the full 15-minute length of Thriller, the film clip, which is huge and quite scary for, I reckon, a young kid to watch. Same thing, it's a bloody werewolf, you know what I mean? But also I was kind of like, what album do I stop with Michael Jackson? Like, when did he, I have to go back and research this, when did he actually start acting out with young kids, because in my mind it was bad, because I mean, essentially the album's called Bad, so then I won't play him anything off Bad. So Thriller, anything from Thriller back is okay in my eyes. I don't know, you know what I mean? So I was sort of torn. It was a dilemma.
You might break his heart later on down the tracks. He'll be this massive MJ fan, and he starts doing the moonwalk everywhere, and then it's just like, son, sit down. There's something have a seat. I'm going to have to talk some things through with you.
But I was like, well, if he's listening to that, I'm okay with him listening to metal, and he loves it, you know.
Well, it's like it just gets so confusing. It's like, where do you draw the line? Because it's. I mean, even in the comedy side of things, in the last few years with all the Bill Cosby stuff. I mean, I watched The Cosby Show as a kid. I never really sort of paid attention to his actual comedy, but I know lots of people, probably my parents and that generation, who listened to all the vinyl of his comedy specials.
The first ever comedy special I ever listened to was
him?
Cosby. My dad had it on vinyl with that old Noah bit on there.
Yeah,
I want you to build an ark. Yeah, and I thought it was genius.
And
so I've got that vinyl at home, but I'm.
And then it's like, do I keep it?
Burn it like Hitler? Like, no, I'll definitely keep it. I don't listen to it, but yeah.
I keep seeing Cosby books in like the op shops just sitting in there, and I go, I'm sure there's something interesting in there or entertaining
Perhaps,
in there.
Yeah, there probably is.
But it's like, where do you draw the line? Do you just disregard this stuff? And it's a bit of a moral dilemma. But I mean, I look at metal stuff, and there's all the black metal stuff from Scandinavia and all the church burnings, and those guys killing each other for all sorts of different reasons and everything. But man, the music's awesome. But then you're like, are you validating some of the stuff that's in the content or the context around their story? And it's like, I don't know. I just start overanalyzing everything.
I like where Zealand Ardor came from, because he was on 4chan. He used to go and set himself challenges apparently on 4chan, where he would ask people who were on 4chan, like, give me 2 genres and I'll try and mix them together.
Yeah, right.
And because he's black, he felt like someone was trying to make a racial slur, because someone said mix black metal, and then this other guy wrote mix N-word music.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
And so then he went, righto, I will. So he combined black metal with slave music, and his whole sort of ideology behind creating those albums was that he was like, imagine if African American slaves embraced Satan instead of Jesus. And I was like, this is excellent. I went and saw them at Crowbar, and again, like, no one really knows. I didn't think anybody knew this band or anything like that. The place was rammed, and it was an amazing show. The
name didn't register with me, but that combination, I've heard people describe it, because I think the album cover's like is it like, I'm just thinking of colours, is it like a sort of like a purple and and green
and
sort
purple.
Of, yeah. And I haven't bothered to listen to them yet, but
you should get into it, mate.
Yeah, a lot of people have been raving about it.
It's an incredible. So Devil Is Fine was like the first one that he put out.
Yeah, okay.
And now he's got the band, and then they brought out a full album in 2018 called Stranger Fruit, and that's where the Gravediggers chant, which is bring the dead body down.
Right, wow.
Yeah, that's what my son gets into as well. But there's so many great songs on there. I'll
be more motivated to go and check it out. It's so hard now with like so much music coming out, because I think since I've had Spotify for a couple of years, well, probably 3 or 4 years, but only in the last sort of 18 months have I bothered to actually pay for the subscription. Yeah. And I mean, I still buy the odd CD and record here and there, but now it's just like, whatever, like each Friday there's like the new Release Radar playlist comes out, and instantly I'm seeing what the latest in the metal and rock world comes out, and I'm just going, shit, I can't keep up with this.
It's amazing,
and I'm only listening to one song.
Yeah.
I'm not always listening to the full album, and it's just like, far out, like, how much time do I have? But it's exciting, it's great, but at the same time, it's hard to cut through the noise sometimes.
It kind of is, but that was like, I only discovered Witch Skull seriously 2 days ago.
Yeah, right.
You know, and then just went on a deep dive, but that was YouTube, and also through a mate of mine who's going to be working on one of their new film clips. And then I just went on YouTube and just went nuts looking up all this stuff, and then went, right, I'm buying this album straight up. But that made me just wonder, like, how many people are buying these albums? Like, how do you stay alive with this sort of stuff, you know?
It's I don't know about other genres, but metal's kind of good. We're probably like one of the last sort of, and this is more sort of an overarching thing of metal in general rather than all the subgenres, but I think we're probably one of the last sort of styles of music where we've got an audience that still values, and we're probably on the fringes of that ending now, where they still value the tangible thing.
Yeah.
They still, even if it's paying for a digital download, they're still owning the MP3s. They've still got something they feel they can cling onto.
Yeah.
But vinyl's still massive. CDs aren't. I'm seeing that reduce quite quickly now.
Yeah.
But people still buy them. I mean, we put out an album last year, and we sold more CDs than we ever have since we changed the name of the band, and that was like, I don't know, 15 odd years ago.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't. It completely. It's backwards to everything else that's going on. So you sort of look at it and go, well, what, is there something that we're doing that's different? Is it just our crowd? Maybe we just got a lot of guys who still live in the past, where they still cherish CDs and they love their CD collections.
They sure do.
They
sit there. They've got a CD player. Like, who's got that? I've got a CD player in my car.
Yeah.
And so that's how I sort of like. So that's what I was talking before we started this. I was kind of grateful that Tools took so long to bring Fear Inoculum out, because in that time I went on a bit of an exploration and started looking up other stuff. And my mate Dave, who's a singer in a band, he for every birthday for my sons, he would create a mixed tape or mixed CD of different metal bands. And that's how I sort of came onto Silent Night was on there, and Graveyard was on there, and there's so many insane. He made some amazing compilations, by the way. Like, it's really good stuff. So that's just in the car now all the time. Is he somebody? Because I don't know this guy, but is he somebody that really sort of? It's almost like a bit of an art for him to make sure that he gets the right mix of songs to tailor for the person really
to listen to it.
He's like, right, I will start off. There's certain ones where he went like real old school. Like you could just tell he was like, right, we've got to teach Archie about who Slayer is and who Megadeth is. And, like they have to know that. So get the foundations, the brickwork. And there's he didn't put any Metallica on there because he knew that I'd have that anyway.
Yeah, right,
that like, and then it just sort of slowly, more and more, he just started drip feeding all this other hardcore, more obscure stuff in there or on other CDs as well, which was it was excellent. Yeah.
I think, that personal recommendation as well, it's sort of almost like that. Well, it's word of mouth, really. I mean, I think that sort of validates it and makes it more interesting as well, because you've had somebody almost curate, music for you that's tailored for hopefully your taste. So it's rather than just sort of, I don't know, like, just talking about Spotify,
Does Spotify do that a lot? They do. I'm not, mate, I've never paid for it, so I don't know. Do they go, if you like this band, here's a bunch of others you should get into? Yeah,
so it gives you, so if you click on, Witch Skull, and you scroll down on their profile page, down the bottom they'll have similar artists, and so you can click on them. If you're playing their music, then there's curated Spotify playlists that they create based off songs that you've already played, so there's familiar stuff, and then they drip feed random stuff that sort of links into other styles, similar styles of music to what you're listening to.
Okay, cool.
So you can, there's like a daily mix or whatever it is, so you just play the daily mix, and it might be, I don't know what the ratio is, but say it's 70% of stuff that you know already, so it's cool. Yeah. And then every once in a while there'll be an oddball that gets thrown in, and you're like, what's this? And then hopefully that, those first few seconds are good enough that you don't skip it. Yeah. And then hopefully you discover some new tunes. So it's kind of cool, but it's still like a bit of a, it's AI, and so it's not always hitting the mark. So I think it probably 9 times out of 10 will work better than maybe somebody out there just recommending music, because there's always bias attached to it. Yeah. But I think when you got a mate that sort of goes, like, I'm thinking of you, and I put something together, I think you're just personally a bit more motivated to even give it a shot, just out of respect for that person. They go, you put a bit of effort in, all right, I'll give it a shot. I'll slap it in the player and listen to it and see what happens.
But I love that relationship that I've got with him. We've got 2 mates that we do it with. Like, we'll just sort of send each other different stuff. He sent me this band from New Zealand. I can't remember their bloody name. They're amazing. They just do metal haka music.
Is it the young guys, Alien Weaponry?
That's them. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. That blew my mind, man. I was like, I want to go to fucking war now. That is beastly shit, That was so good.
They played.
Fucking...
Well, I didn't jump on the train to begin with because there was so much hype around them. And
I didn't even hear any. This is the thing with metal. You're like, what hype? Where?
Yeah, I know. And for me, like, I'm going back to sort of my sort of stubborn teenage days. Anytime people talk about something, they love it. I'm the last one to jump on the bandwagon, because I'm like, no, it's bullshit, Yeah. And I'm the one that pays for it. But these guys were talked about for a little bit, at least sort of in the metal circles, and then they played Download last year, and I got there early, and I thought, I'll watch them. And before they even started, I was looking at the crowd around me, and we're talking about old school metalheads before. I looked around, and there were guys sort of average age, mid-40s to mid-50s, wearing battle jackets, everything. And these guys are young. They're barely 18. I think one of them's still underage.
Yeah,
maybe.
they do. Yeah, I've looked at their film clips. Who are
just
you,
baby-faced kids doing the haka and everything. Like these war songs. It's just insane. But I'm looking around going, these are guys that stereotypically are they're pretty fixed on what they like and what they don't like. And for this band to have so much hype and to be so young as well, and maybe unfairly so, have a bit of a gimmick attached to them.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, and I might be unfairly sort of categorizing them, but they tend to not dive into it straight away. They'll be a bit standoffish and go, oh, well, it's a novelty. I won't listen to it.
Right.
But I looked around and go, fuck, all right. So these guys who are usually pretty stubborn are here, and they're here early to watch this band. A bunch of guys that I think 2 out of the 3 of them weren't even 18 at that point in time. I'm going, all right. Okay, so this is already framing it for me.
Yeah.
And they got out, and man, I mean, they're a 3-piece, and the sound that they pulled off was
Big
incredible.
Sound,
and they were so confident, and they were just stomping around on stage, and just had they were ready to go to war.
Yeah.
And they're just death staring the crowd, and they just their stage presence and everything. I'm like, man, you can't teach that,
Yeah.
We've got bands that have been touring for 20, 30 years, and they still don't understand what to do on stage. They don't know how to entertain a crowd or be engaging or anything like that. And these guys have just got it.
Yeah.
There's just something in it.
I'd love to see them. There's another one. There's a band from some Scandinavian band that sing these sort of ancient Viking songs to metal as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
In that Norse,
maybe,
language, and
maybe a
Monomath. I can't remember. Yeah,
and
even that is kind of really mystical and interesting. And you're like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. It's like Skål. I want to go and pillage. Let's do this.
Well, if it's that band, their stage setup, they've got there's a couple of bands from up that way, but. Monomath, I think on their last few tours, they got this giant Viking ship on stage. So they cut the Viking ship in half, and so the front part just sort of juts out from the stage, and the drum riser is actually in the ship itself.
Awesome.
And then they sort of all stand around the ship, and then they've got fire and all these flames and everything. And they've got their drinking horns and all that sort of shit. And it's just it's mad.
Again, gimmicky, but fucking so's Iron Maiden.
Oh, that's it. They all are.
It's the same shit. And that's a show. I'll watch that. That's awesome.
And that's why they're popular, But I think where the novelty and the gimmick sort of gets diluted pretty quickly is the ones that are sort of flash in the pan, or they change really quickly. So they're only sort of the gimmick for maybe 12 months and it doesn't hit, so they change. And a lot of these bands, they've we actually love doing this, and we don't care. We'll be popular eventually or whatever. We're consistent. We'll keep going, and then I think people eventually go, that's convincing. Even though it might be a gimmick or it might be a novelty,
but there's so many gimmicks. There's so many gimmicks in metal. Even with a lot of black metal as well. Fucking goats' heads on stage and even Ghost dressing up in all their bullshit capes and stuff.
That's it.
Am I allowed to? I'm scared to say that I'm not a fan of Ghost on this podcast. They'll get a lot of hate for that, aren't I?
I don't know.
That's like saying to the K-pop world, get a bunch of people. Have you had some
backlash from the K-pop
world? No. I remember seeing that a couple of months ago. All these people getting death threats.
Oh, really?
Mate of mine, Nick Cody, hosted a show on Channel 9 called 20 to 1. And apparently, he said something about K-pop, and then all of a sudden, this K-pop army would threatening him and his family. They're just 12-year-olds from Korea. It's just I'm going to fucking kill you.
No,
but with Ghost. They won't
even be Koreans. They'll be middle-aged people from down in Wollongong.
They'll be pedophiles. Andy is who they'll be. I'm gonna get you, get you and your little boy too.
Oh, now I've got a bit of a marketing angle for this podcast episode. I'm going to bring in a K-pop audience. Excellent. No, but I think with Ghost, I've listened to a couple of songs, and it's surprising because the image and what they put out there, I just didn't get it. I find
that really gimmicky.
And I listened to it. I listened to it. It doesn't even sound anything like what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But I've never. I don't know. I don't hate it, but it's never sort of clicked for me.
It's not my thing. Yeah.
But there's definitely bands out there that sort of jump onto something and run with it, and I think it just comes down to the conviction of it, and also the crowd. I think metal, especially a lot of metal from Europe, is massive. It's on the verge of it's corporate now. They're it's big businesses, and so the biggest metal labels in the world now are sort of rubbing shoulders with your Universals and Warners and things like that now. So
when's
it's a big
that
business.
Bleed in here though? Like that's you see that's massive, and they're playing huge festivals, and it's like I want that here. Like it deserves it here. Even the fact, like I just found Witch Skull, and they're from fucking Canberra, and they're 50, and it's like, dude, you guys wail again, 3-piece. It's a wall of fucking noise. It's insane. It's like, why isn't this? Even though they've signed with Rise Above, why isn't this like? This should be bigger. I want it bigger.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean. It's an odd thing because you can blame like the obvious stuff like, oh, there's no mainstream press, there's no exposure, there's no a lot of outlets to advertise. But I mean, fuck, you got the internet now,
Exactly.
So you can connect with people. So
that's what I mean.
Easy.
Like Zealand Ardor was rammed, and no one. That's the same thing. They didn't get any commercial, advertising or anything like that. It's just people who know about them because of their presence online or whatever.
It's probably a bit of representation because I think some of the bands that do really well in Australia that are sort of just heavy music in general, and sort of might be some more of the alternative or core scenes. They've got some really good business people around them. So they've got great agents, they've got great management, and I think they sort of sit on the fence of, I understand the scene, I understand how it works, I understand what works within that sort of that smaller community, but I also know it's going to translate into the larger community, so to speak. And I think a lot of the metal crowd still are trying to work that out.
That happens with comedy too, though.
Yeah.
Like you can make a living out of comedy, you can do really well out of it, just like, you just say yes to everything.
Yeah.
But then you also just see there's certain management teams. There's only a small group of management teams in Australia that sort of pick up, embrace and throw these people up into stardom and get behind them. And it's kind of like you need that team and you need that money and that effort and that manpower to do that. And then there's people who haven't been picked up by those management teams who are fucking 10 times better than a bunch of those,
What's the old,
on television.
It's not what you know till you know. It's that
totally.
old cliche. I see that. Yeah, I see that heaps in metal. I mean, there's a lot of talented bands, but maybe they just don't have the capability themselves to go beyond them being creatives with their music. There's I'm sure it's the same with comedy where you got people that are really sort of deep in the craft of it all and love the whole process of being a comedian and doing comedy, but not understand the business side of it or marketing themselves. Or because I sort of look and I go, like, I've got a podcast. I just bought a couple of mics and just wing it and see how I go. We've got YouTube now. We were looking at somebody doing metal reviews before on YouTube. And you've got all the tools in front of you. I think it's just a case of more people need to do it and hopefully lead the charge where other bands suddenly go, oh, I can do it too, because I just think it's the know-how's not there yet.
I think with a lot of younger performers now, they're a lot more confident to put themselves out there online and various forms like, podcasting and YouTubing and all that sort of thing. Whereas a lot of my generation, I guess, we're still like Gen X, are just kind of a little bit like, I don't want anyone to, so we've grown up with tall poppy syndrome more than they have these days. So you're still very self-aware and you just don't want to cop any shit. Well, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's funny for me to say that, given that I get up in front of an audience and just go hell for leather and, can get heckled.
Probably program-wise, like in your head, I mean, that in itself is sort of accepted. It's socially accepted to be, if you're going to be a comedian, that's what you do.
On stage.
But to do anything else outside of that might be criticised. And I think we're probably in the same boat where we'll have crowds that sort of span probably the younger crowd, but you also got the Gen X crowd and older, where you're trying to win over both crowds. And so, we've certainly got that sort of tall poppy syndrome mentality with a lot of our crowd, where you want to put yourself out there, but we're so... I don't think we intentionally do it, but I think subconsciously we've got that self-deprecating humour, and it's almost like a bit of a mechanism to cut through to go, we're going to give... That's to give ourselves a licence to get out there and push ourselves a little bit more and maybe inflate the ego a bit. But to do it in a way that, hey, we're taking the piss out of ourselves, so don't go too hard on us, and just in a way to try and cut through a bit. But the younger guys, it's like, I mean, there's a band from Brizzy called Wartooth, and a couple of young guys in that band, and I think they do Facebook Lives every Sunday,
Wow.
I think I don't know if they're doing a podcast or they're going to, but they've got a bunch of stuff, but a lot of video content. And I look at that, and every time I go and flip the old Insta story around and look at my face, I go, oh, fuck that, no way. I don't want to look at my face, let alone anybody else. I mean, the podcast is hard enough, and I've gotten over that for the most part. But this next generation seem to embrace it a lot more, and they get it. So it's probably just a case of in time it'll sort itself out. But the older crowd, I mean, it's just a case of do you just stick with the crowd that you've built over the years and just hope that they stick around?
No, you can't. You've got to keep doing it. You've got to keep going because you get forgotten very quickly now. You know, like you can build and go very well, but then there's other things, there's other factors now that are sort of muddy the waters, so to speak, you know, get in the way so people can't really reach you or see you. So you are kind of always like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do other things other than just relying on, you know, back in the day it was like word of mouth, and now there's so many other things, and now social media is your mouthpiece that you now have to, you're doing your own word of mouth, you know, so
you got to talk yourself up.
Yeah, that's fun. Fucking hell, my last story, I did an Insta story yesterday because I was, for the first time, just like trying to post a video that was longer than a minute on Instagram, and I did it on IGTV. And it worked, but I didn't know if it came up in my feed. I'm fucking just working this out. You know? And it went up. So then I quickly went on the Insta story and just went, I'll just put a video up. It's not the right time of day. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon or something, which, like, if you go by the insights on your graphs, you've got to look at all this bullshit, who your demographic is and what's peak time to post something.
You got to be a data analyst now.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I didn't get into comedy to do maths, mate, you know? Honestly, it's
You're trying to run away from that shit.
Yeah, I didn't do a marketing degree. I just want to talk about my dick. Come on. So then you got to study all this side to go, oh, fuck, I've messed this up, haven't I? It's not going to get as many likes as it should do. And I just thought I'd do a story about that, just about my own ineptitude, which is kind of funny. But a lot of the time you're like, man, I don't know what I want to say here, like on stories. And also, I don't need to share that much shit, do I?
I don't know. I mean, I get a bit anxious about it because, you know, we put out an album last year and already it's out of date. You know, I can't get it into the conversation because it was released in 2019, not in 2020. We're talking about 2020 now. So I'm like, fuck, how do I make an album that's, you know, 6 or 7 months old relevant? And a few years ago, it was like, well, fucking oath, it's relevant. It's brand new. It's a brand new album. But now it's not. Even though when we released it in August, it was like this amazing thing. We haven't put out a studio album in X amount of years, blah, blah, blah. There's all this fanfare. Went really well to begin with, but then, you know, in a matter of months, it's forgotten about. So you're like, okay, fuck, how do I repurpose this content to keep it fresh and keep it moving? So it's just a constant battle. But I see it with comedy now, with like a lot of comedians are doing a lot of the Insta stories. They're putting a lot of their videos up. They're even putting in the subtitles now because they know that most of the people don't have sound on.
The engagement drops if you don't put subtitles on your videos.
It's crazy.
Because people are on public transport and they'll just read it and stare at it. Or taking a shit
at work
with the volume down. And you're like, oh my God, this is where my reach is while you're fucking stinking up the place.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's really hard. And that whole banner thing, like you've got to have Final Cut Pro to do that banner thing. I don't have Final Cut Pro and I'm not going to buy it just so I can do banners on my own fucking videos, mate. Turn the volume up, put your fucking headphones on and watch my clip, you idiot. Come off it. It gives me the shits. Yeah. Like, and I put subtitles on. And also, like, I've got people who have thanked me for putting subtitles on because they're actually hearing impaired, which that's fine. But like, if I get frustrated just by people's laziness, you know, you can plug your headphones in.
Well, especially when like, I know Insta TV stuff, you can put longer stuff on there, which is good. But, you know, before that, it was like you had a minute and then the Insta stories are 15 seconds or whatever. Yeah. And, you know, basically you're putting sound bites up in the hope that you can get someone's attention. Yep. And anything longer than a minute, I mean, well, Instagram would just force you to cut it off. But, you know, people's interest would just go. Yeah. Or all these social media platforms were just telling you that people's interest only lasts that long. So it was making the decision on behalf of the
I think they're saying that, but I think that's bullshit. I reckon they're saying that so that you boost your post.
Yeah, probably.
They're like, you need to boost, because they're like, give me more of your money and I'll chuck it in people's faces a little bit more. Yeah. You know, but then there's other, like you get certain stats where they're like, there's one that breaks your heart on Facebook where they're like, they show you how many 3-second views your video got.
Fucked. Yeah.
And you're like, You piece of shit. 3 seconds. What do I have to do to fucking keep you here longer? For 3 seconds, for fuck's sake. But 3 seconds on a song is this. Bang! And then it's done.
Like, had enough.
No,
next.
fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, what am I... How does I get you for 3 seconds, mate?
What I reckon a lot of that is...
You're a fish. You got the memory of a fucking fish.
I don't think it's even people, though. I think, I don't think it happens so much now with all the updates that the app has now, but I think when they first started putting videos in the feeds, there was autoplay. So you had to go into your settings and turn off autoplay, or you would only activate it when you're on Wi-Fi, because it was just chewing through people's data.
Right.
And so I think what that 3 second thing is, or has been in the past, is that people are scrolling through and it's just instantly playing. And so they're not even watching it.
Unbelievable.
And so then Facebook's going, that's a view. And it's only when you go into the analytics that you see the 3 second thing and you're like, oh, fuck. Because I boosted, I can't remember what video it was, but it was a couple of years ago. I boosted a video and I wasn't looking at the analytics, but I was just looking at the view count. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Like it's getting out, it's getting some reach. You can see the reach number, it's increasing. Yeah. I'm like, excellent. I'm going to build off this momentum and actually do something organic, air quotes, after this to keep the momentum going. And then I realized that like no one was interacting with it, no one was commenting, no one was really liking it too much. And I was like, fuck. And so then when it ended, I looked at the analytics just to see, what countries, what demographics. And then I saw the 3 second thing and I went, fuck this.
That was it.
And like 80% of it was just the 3 second thing. And I just realized, that's bullshit.
That's a waste of money. The only time you know you've done well on a video is if people are actually, it's not just the likes, it's more in the comments. Yep. If people are getting tagged to view, and then you're like, okay, this is good. Or they've got good engagement here. That's it. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah,
definitely. And then people, you go, okay, this is going to sell some tickets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think even like if to sort of distinguish what seems to be hitting well and what isn't, like if you're just digesting shit, like if you're seeing that people are commenting on stuff, then you tend to think in the back of your head, that's something that maybe I should look at over something that's just got no engagement whatsoever. Yeah. And that, it might be unfair on the people that are creating the content, but I mean, that's just how human behavior works. We sort of gravitate towards the populace of what people are showing interest in. Yeah. But
then that sucks too, because then you feel like, well, am I pandering to this audience? Because then where does your creativity come from? Am I just doing this just now? I'm just fishing for your fucking appreciation. So what happened to what I like? You know what I mean? Then your creativity is sort of lessened because all you're doing is just putting out this fucking noise.
Well, do you find with comedians that they're changing their subject matter to bring people?
I think there's heaps of people up there just pandering and virtue signaling on stage. Yeah, just to sort of, I'm a good guy, particularly guys. Anyone who's up there telling people on stage they're a good guy is definitely not a good guy. That's for sure.
I just see it with a lot of these sort of these little hooks that people have with the thumbnails of the videos, and usually because going back to those subtitles, and usually they'll make sure that the thumbnail is the is not the beginning of the video. It's somewhere through it where there's the subtitle showing, and the subtitle is showing some sort of topical word or buzzword that you will, and I hate using the word because everyone uses it and it's overused, but triggers people to go, oh, I'm either going to really fucking like this or I'm really going to fucking hate it. So I'm going to click on it to double check. And if anything, I'm kind of hoping that I hate it so then I can call out on it or comment on it and unleash the fury, so to speak. But
that's why the banners are there now. That's how they're using those to sort of bait and hook you to get you in there.
Yeah, here's the topic I'm talking about. Yeah.
And then off you go.
Yeah, I don't know if music's doing it as much.
I don't think it is.
I think some musos, like who are putting out their own branding as individuals, I've noticed there's some guys out there that, and I'm on the fence, like they're a lot more political, a lot more social politics being discussed, and I kind of like, part of it's like, I kind of, they're part of the community just as much as anybody else, so fuck, it's free for all, talk about what you care about. But I think there's some people out there that are using their own branding as a way to, and using sort of these social political sort of things to basically drive traffic to what they're doing. Yeah. So there's that sort of virtue signaling sort of stuff. So, but I think it is sort of the younger crowd who are doing it, coming back to the millennial sort of, I hate using that word, but that sort of personal branding sort of world.
There's heaps of that in comedy. Like everyone's like, what's your brand? What's your thing? People are sort of finding their little quirk or their, some sort of egocentric thing about themselves, and then just sort of like, well, I'm a bearded bloke and I love drinking froths, or I'm a weird little waif and I like telling my little poems, or I like, oh fuck, I sound really bitter now, don't I? Or I'm a bit wacky and I do anti-comedy or something. I'm that sort of whack job guy. I'm finding like I don't even know. It's hard to, I've never really known how to brand myself. Like, I just like comedy, but then also I've never really wanted to sort of launch off the back of something, like even we're talking about metal and how much I really like that, but that's not really something that's prevalent on my social media. There's been a couple of times when I've sort of taken a video of my son or something just going off, or sometimes he'll be sitting in his chair and there's just some real full-on metal going and I can see him, he's sort of staring off into the distance and he does stuff with his fingers and it looks like he's trying to harness magic, and I've filmed him doing that and posted that, but I don't really want to post my kids on social media anymore. But so there's not really any, like, I don't know a brand I am apart from a straight white guy. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, and that's not a bankable fucking thing.
Well, I was going to say that's some loaded branding in itself. Fuck it, that's a lot to navigate these days.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't say anything without that coming back at you.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I mean, I think when you start to brand yourself, because they talk about niching down, or the Americans say niching down, and it's great because you don't have to win over everybody anymore. You can just have your little crowd of supporters who come out and see you perform, whichever way that is. But it also pigeonholes you as well. Like, it becomes hard to sort of evolve or change, or you might develop an interest in something else that makes you a little bit more sort of wider with your scope of what you do or what you want to talk about or perform.
Yeah.
But if you're known for one particular thing, you're fucked.
Like I like comic books.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be that guy that gets comic book fans to my shows.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like comics too. I like graphic novels too. I like all forms of entertainment and all sorts of different things. I listen to metal, but then I also listen to different, slower stuff. I'm more predominantly metal, but it's like there's so many different things out there that I'm attracted to that I'm not going to just pick one thing and stick to it and go, these are the people that I want at my show.
Do you get sort of... No, drag's not the right word, but do you get drag?
Do I get drag queens in my show? Yeah, yes, I do.
There you go, tick.
I hope so.
We've ticked the box.
I hope
it. Given
the amount of shows I've gone to of drags, I would like a little bit of reciprocation. There
we go. Yeah. We've extended the invitation out there.
I've supported them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now return the favour. But do you find that as a comedian when you're getting shows? Because I don't really know how it works. Do you what's the best way of wording this? But like for us, like we've been stereotypically known as a power metal band, although we play, I just call us heavy metal, but we will tend to get steered into gigs that are similar styles of metal. Do you find, even though that you don't quite know what your branding is or you don't define it, do you find that other people throw you into particular genred lineups?
Well, I think the lineups nowadays are just a lot more diverse. Yeah. So it doesn't really, like I'm not getting put on like a blokey night or this certain night. They just sort of chuck you on with a whole bunch of different people. Like the Comedy Store is books really diversely. Actually, most rooms in Sydney are really aware and really conscious of that and giving everybody a crack, and everyone deserves that as well. So no, like I'm not like being personally picked out for particular things. Like I can sort of gig anywhere, and do that, and that's fine. Which I like that too.
I think for us, like sometimes it works where we get to play with similar style bands, but I mean, I just think of myself as a punter that goes to gigs. I mean, I don't want to see the same band all night. If I'm going to see 3 or 4 bands play, I want to be surprised or entertained all the way through. And it might not be gimmicks, it might just be the style of music, but by that 4th band who would be classed as a headliner, by the time they get on, you're like, I've been dealing with like guitar solos and soaring choruses and sing-alongs and everything all night. It's fun, but I've had 3 bands of that already by the time the last band gets on. So the best gigs that we've ever done have been, chucking a death metal band on and maybe a doom metal band or something like that. Man. And it's hard because sometimes it comes back and bites you where it divides the crowd too much.
Right.
But there's a lot of guys out there who just want to and girls, I should say. It's mainly guys. Fuck, I wish that ratio would like even itself out a bit more. It's so hard. But you know, they just want to come out and enjoy themselves and have a good night, and they don't really give a fuck about the subgenres. It's only a sort of small section of people, but it's always a challenge. And even marketing yourself, you know, for us in Europe, it's always been difficult because they want to pigeonhole us in a particular niche.
Yep.
But not all of our music fits that niche, and so then the people that are in that pocket listen to us and go, well, we don't really like that because it doesn't quite align in with what our little group of people in that subgenre like. So they're like, oh, fuck. So then you try to step back and go, well, can we have a lot more of a widened sort of marketing approach where we just hit metal fans, and they go, well, that just doesn't work like that. You know, you guys need the power metal crowd. So we're going to go to the power metal people that review power metal, and they don't quite... They like a couple of songs.
See, that's the thing. Like, I like all sorts of different metal.
Yeah.
I'll go and see a power metal band. I'll go and see a doom band. I'll go and see a black metal band. I went and saw Tool the other night as well. You know, like I'll go and see bands because I like that sort of noise, you know, and I like different variants of it as well. Like I liked Soundwave for that reason as well. They had such a really good, you know, diverse lineup of bands, and especially for
metalheads who sometimes get a little bit self-conscious. I mean, they're usually the ones that are trying to build their self-esteem more so than anybody else. But you know, they really care about what other people think of what they listen to. And Soundwave was so good because
it's great.
I remember years ago, I think it's one at Sydney Park and Offspring headlined, and I remember at the end of the night, and we're all pretty wrecked by the end of the night, but I looked around and the amount of metalheads there that would never be caught dead at an Offspring show, having a really good time.
We're being pretty fly for white guys.
And they were getting into it, but because they were already at Soundwave, it was acceptable. You know, they were there for all the other bands that were playing, but you know, may as well hang around for Offspring. You know, and you can see them getting into it. But if it was just Offspring doing their own shows, a large chunk of those guys would never go.
Oh, of course they wouldn't have
gone. So Soundwave was awesome for that. And even Download, I'll end up going this year. And a lot of metalheads are sort of going, oh, there's not as much metal as I like. But I'm like, fuck, man. Like, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it
totally.
too. Like, and there's still some great bands. But, you know that a lot of those guys will still walk up to a stage and watch a couple of songs from a band that they would never be caught dead watching. So it kind of works.
Yeah, it was good. It was an interesting mix. Like, they had some really sort of obscure shit that I'd never heard of before. And then... Like, I went the year that Iron Maiden headlined.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And that was seriously one of the heaviest pits I've ever been in in my life. I got right up the front for that. And no shit, I was like, this will be fine. I'll be able to take this whole show in. Fuck, man, the whole time I was on guard.
Yeah.
You know, arms up, copping elbows in the head, just sweaty, wet, just like getting punched around. I was like, fucking hell. I thought everyone would be a little older and... You know what I mean? Like, decrepit. But well, it was actually... That was amazing.
I had a similar... I've had two of the biggest sort of also most intense sort of crowds or pits that I've been in. Maiden, years and years ago in Europe, I was at some weird festival I'd never heard of in the Netherlands, and they were headlining, and it was still like, you know, just summer or whatever, so there was still daylight. And I got right up to the front and I looked around, similar sort of thing. I was just going, everyone's kind of old, you know. I was probably the youngest person in the crowd that I could see in my vicinity. So I was like, all right. And then as soon as their intro music came on, just this surge from behind, and then suddenly I was struggling to stand up. And I'm like, fuck. And so for the first few songs, I'm only half paying attention to what's going on the stage, just trying to work out, oh fuck, like, am I okay here?
Yeah.
And the other one was Jimmy Barnes at
bullshit.
the Enmore.
Yeah,
and
right.
I saw, it wasn't too many years ago, but I was there with my wife, and we were definitely the youngest in the crowd, and we're on the floor. It was all seated, so I thought, seated. Pretty much a boomer audience here, so everyone's pretty chill, and there was a support band. I can't remember who they were, but everyone just sat down and it was all polite. So I thought, okay, this is the vibe of tonight, and I thought, it's gonna be a bit boring. Everyone's sitting down. Anyway, lights go down and everyone stands up. So I'm like, okay, cool. At least we're standing up, so that'll be good. Then suddenly all the aisles fill up. Everyone's getting out of their seats, coming down, and then the blokes I think we were like the second row from the front. The blokes in front all started taking their shirts off because they'd been drinking Wild Turkey all evening. But now, because Barnsy's on, it's time to actually turn into a sensible drinker and now into an animal. And so they've got their shirts off. The women are just like clawing and screaming. And Jess and I are just going, well, where the fuck are we? And people are like sort of diving over the chairs to try and get up the front. They're trying to touch Jimmy and go,
how long ago was this?
Oh, he did Freight Train Heart. It was like an anniversary, so it would have only been like maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Jesus Christ!
And it was a sellout. It was a sellout at the end
sort
more,
of...
and it was just mayhem. And I was just, fuck me. And so since then, I reckon the boomer audience are probably some of the most sort of wild concert goers because they never go out. So when they do go out, it's almost like, I've got to make this count. Yeah. So I'm going to start drinking at 11 o'clock in the morning. So if it's one of those Day on the Greens or, I'll gig at Cockatoo Island with Farnsey and, I don't know,
we'll have a picnic and a bloody block of cheese.
We're going to bring the deck chairs. We're going to bring the wines. We're going to be, drinking, they're only mid-strengths. Well, fuck that. I'll drink 40 of them then. I'll just catch up. And in the sun, so not all of them are wearing sunscreen or hats. And by the time the main acts get out, it's just like there's fights, there's screaming, there's women crying, and you just go, man, like some of these people should be my parents.
That's hilarious.
and then you go to a metal show, like a local one in Sydney, and you got your drunks there, but everyone's pretty chill, and you sort of think it's funny where the stigmas sort of lie as far as the unruly crowds and the things that sort of apply.
I think also with metalheads too, like they really appreciate the musicianship, so they're sitting there and they really want to watch drums, guitar, bass, or whatever. Like you just, and I know, like even when we're at Zealand Ardor, like there's a lot of components to that band, and so you're just like, right, I'm going to watch her now play bass for a bit, and then I'm going to watch drums, and you really, and everyone else is just sort of nodding, oh, this is fucking good. Yeah. So everyone's there just because they really want to focus on the band. The one thing I liked about the Tool concert was that. Because he's so hardcore, they're so hardcore about no phones and all that sort of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of had this appreciation for it, and it was quite good because nobody was allowed to get their phones out. I was lucky because I was just right side of stage. I got some really great tickets, so I could look down into the pit, and it got heavy in there too. Like a really big mosh circle started, a lot of heavy moshing, people crowd surfing and shit like that, and it's like, oh, this is probably because they're not getting their phones out, so they're like really into this music again. And even Maynard was like, oh, it's so cute, you guys sitting there, look at you guys just trying to bring back the 90s. Like it was really quite funny. And it wasn't until the end with Stinkfist that he's just like, all right, I know you all want to whip it out, you've been fucking wanting to all night, get it out. And so of course he let everyone film Stinkfist because it's Stinkfist, like who gives a fuck. But so everyone, then boom, everyone's got it out. And that's a heavy as fuck song, and no one's jumping around now because they're like holding their phones up. So that was kind of cool to ban that, to create that vibe again and watch that happen. I've seen, that was like the 4th time I think I've seen them, and that was, again, that's the heaviest I've seen a pit for a Tool.
I've seen bands try to do it and try to get people to put their phones away, but they, whether it be their branding, their image that they've already created, or just the delivery and how they do it, sometimes it's just not convincing enough where the crowd just doesn't buy into it.
It was security was wandering through the
keeping an eye on everyone as
well.
They
were going into the pit and like, man, they were like, we will confiscate that.
That's
or
definitely
kick
the 90s
out.
again.
It was fucking intense. They were walking through the pit, like if you had your phone out, you get done. I texted my wife just before they started. And the security was like, put your phone away, mate. I was just texting him. He goes, yeah, no, you got to put it away. I was like, fuck, right, okay. And Prince was like that as well. Like we went and saw Prince, and they just had security on us the whole time. We were down on the floor for that, and I quickly, took a photo pretty much of Prince's ass, just so I could have a memory that I was that close to him. But even I went and saw his after show at the Ivy. We got tickets to that show, which was phenomenal, and the stage was only about, a foot high. And they just jammed for hours. But I remember I was probably about 4 people back from Prince, and he was playing all along the Watchtower, and someone was trying to film him, and he's wailing on this guitar, playing Hendrix, like fucking Hendrix. Like, Prince is an exceptional musician to watch. I was like, my mind was blown. But mid-lead, he's like playing it, saw the person that had the guitar, reached out, grabbed the phone, threw it. And then went back to playing guitar again. That's how close we were to the stage. Just grabbed it, fuck that, keep going. It was exceptional to watch. The crowd would be like, yeah, we all did. We're like, fuck yeah, Prince just threw a phone out of his hands. Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of like in the 90s where, you didn't have camera phones yet. And so if you wanted to try and take photos, you go to like Kodak and go and get the disposable cameras.
Yeah.
And so I've got like
That's true,
I've
yeah.
got photos from like Pantera and there's a few other bands, but you know, you would get like I grew up in Brisbane, so you go to the arena there, and you'd shove the disposable camera down your pants just to get in there, and you're trying to get patted down. And you just hope that they don't touch, you know, close enough to your junk.
Yeah.
And then you get in, and so then you like trying to wind on the thing just to make sure it's ready, make sure the flash is on. And then you would literally just be throwing your arm up in the air and just pressing the button.
So it's
like
just a blur.
And you have to have the flash because the cameras are so shit.
Yeah.
So instantly it's like, there's the beacons, like straight away, I know where you are.
Yeah.
And so you'd put it, and then you'd run to like the other side of the room and just hope that they didn't, you know, connect the dots. And so the photos
stressful.
Oh yeah, but it was like, it was a mission. Like you had to capture it. You know, you had to sort of have some sort of souvenir from it, apart from, you know, your ticket stub or a shirt or whatever. And so I've got photos lying around where it's just like this washed out photo where you can barely see the people on stage, and because of like the you know, whatever the fog machine or whatever they got on stage is, that mixed in with like, you know, some lights and, you know, probably red lights as well, which just drowns everything out, with this horrible flash with this shitty disposable camera, and you've got barely anything you can decipher. But it's like, I think I got his arm or something like that.
It's the same with your mobile phone. Like,
Yeah.
I've got heaps of things that I've gone to see. I went through my phone and just deleted heaps because I was like, this is dumb. I don't even know why I did this. I can still remember the bands I've seen. I don't need this photograph, this blurred image or whatever. Like, that was again with Tool, when they said whip it out, I was like, all right. So I filmed a bit of it, took a couple of photos. I've looked back at it and it's like, well, I'm going to probably delete all this anyway. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Well, I went and saw cattle decapitation up in Brizzy last week, I think. And so in my head, and this is like, just, I'm so sucked in the social media world, I'm like, oh, I'll get a few photos and quickly like Insta stories and put a couple of posts up and then tag the bands and everything like that. And then I put it away and watched the show. But same thing, I was like, and I'd had a few drinks, and I find that when I'm drinking, I tend to think that I'm a really good photographer. So then I start to get the angles and stuff. So I went to the side of the stage and took a like shot, and I'm like trying to get the right, and waiting for the light to hit at the right point. I'm like, yeah, okay, great. And then next day I'm like flicking through my photos going, well, no, they're all dog shit. So
and it ruins your fucking experience.
And
you're
my head was in there.
on getting a great photo than
I had that mission in my head.
I know.
I had this thing. I was like,
I like the band photos.
Yeah.
I've liked band phones. I'm like, fuck, make it more prevalent at music venues. I'm like, you don't need to have it out. No. You're there to see the band. Watch the fucking band. If you want to have a photo, oh, hey, how about this? Google the fucking band the day after. I guarantee you there would have been some really good quality photographers.
Yeah, and you can just say that you were there.
Go, I was totally there.
Yeah, you don't have to say that you took the photo. I mean, big deal.
And you've got your ticket stubs. That's enough.
Well, that's why they pay professionals to go there and take photos at the beginning of the shows. You know, capture the moments. So, it's a weird one. I mean, do you find that people at comedy shows have sort of got their phones out trying to, because it'd be a different thing.
No one really takes photos. Some people might do a GIF of you on stage, or a boomerang thing, it is, or someone might film some of it or whatever and post it up there. But they're just little snippets or bites, or like if I'm on the road or I'm on tour, like I would put them up on Insta stories and stuff like that of other people who are on stage, or stage shots or whatever. But people in the crowds, like, I don't know, it's a mix. Like, some people do, some people don't. You might get the odd person here or there that's posting something about you, but they don't like post a whole bit. You know, so which is kind of, I like that they don't do that. I haven't experienced that anyway.
I've always been self-conscious with that, because I think the difference with music to comedy is like, you know, with comedy you'll have, you know, comedians that put out specials every however long. But there's a lot of stuff like, you know, we rehearse in a rehearsal room, you know, or at home, you know, and we practice our craft, but
we rehearse in front of people.
So then, you know, I film something, a part of the set, you know, a section or whatever, and I put that online, and it might not be the final product. And it might be a bit shit, or it might not connect, and the crowd might not react on that night, and then suddenly that's portraying not a true reflection of the comedian. So totally. I've always been sort of hyper conscious of that stuff, even when I'm thinking, oh, this would be good for social, and I'm like, no, it's not quite. It's very different to
I think
music,
if anyone's watching, like if you're an audience member for a comedy, don't post anything with any audio, and just have a photo or a GIF or whatever, and then you can just say this is fucking awesome. You know, or this sucks if you want. I don't know, whatever you're into. You know,
any news is good news.
But you know, rather than giving it all away.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about being sober.
Yeah.
So you've got a new show. Have you started the new show yet, or is
No, I go to Brisbane March 1st is
Yeah.
the show when I'm doing the first show. So I'm just doing one night in Brisbane on the 1st of March, and then I'll do Sydney Comedy Festival and Perth Comedy Festival after that. I can't
May
get down
or
to
something
Melbourne.
like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, got work up here.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining, but yeah, the new show is called Straighty 180.
Yeah.
But I like the rhyme of that, and that's
Yeah.
what we used to call people who were squares
Yeah, right.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and now I feel like I've become a square. But the show isn't, I've said it, I've had to reiterate that it's not a show about my sobriety, and it's not
Right.
a show, it's not a TED talk about the dangers of alcoholism, is what I'm saying.
My
It's
journey.
Yeah. I've been sober for 3 years.
Yeah.
So this show is just the direct result of a person with a clear head. And it's just me.
Gotcha. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just stand up
Yeah.
from Australia 180's perspective. So I'm sure that some of it may come up. I'm
Yeah.
sure it does. I've fucking written the show, what I'm talking about. But I don't, it's not that heavy. I'm not an open vein.
Yeah.
I'm not going to open my vein up and go blah, blah. And also it's a tale told from time memoriam. Like, no one needs to hear my sob story about alcohol or
Yeah.
drug abuse or anything like that. We've all done it. So many people have done it before. I don't want to have to get up and tell my story or be a fucking inspiration. I'm doing the sobriety for me, not for other people. I have really rehearsed this answer.
You came in prepared.
I did.
I'm like, all right, fuck, maybe we won't talk about sobriety.
No, we can talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Oh, no,
But
the only reason...
I just wanted to say, if anyone's listening, like
Yeah,
the show,
yeah. If you're coming
wanna come
for that.
expecting, something about
You're looking for answers.
Yeah, you're not going to.
You're not going to get them.
Yeah.
I just, I find it interesting to hear from people that have made the call, like made that decision, because I don't know. I mean, you know, it's still a big cultural thing that's pretty accepted out there.
Drinking.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's part of Australians' culture.
And-
but I talk about, that's a bit that I do as well.
Yeah.
It's like it's part of a comedian's culture as well.
Well, I was
Like,
going to ask
we
if...
drink to celebrate good
Yeah.
gigs and we drink to commiserate bad ones. You know? And the gag is that I was like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that until the day my wife said to me, I think you've got a bit of a problem with drinking. And I was like, oh, I think I'm pretty fucking good at it. You know, I've been practicing every day. What are you talking about? So it's
I'm not an amateur here.
Yeah. But then that's why, like, I jokingly say I went to the AA website, which there's a clip that I've put up recently that says that, and they've got an online test you can take, and I fucking smashed it. I got
Straight A's.
Yeah, 3 of them, an AAA plus. And that's when I went, maybe I should probably give this a bit of a rest. But it was more that she asked me to stop, and I did.
Sometimes I think you need somebody else to be able to sort of give you the reason.
Yeah, but I was tired of it. I definitely had come to a point where I was like, I really want to get off this train.
Yeah.
I'm really sick of this same old. This is feeling just too repetitive, and I was getting exhausted and worn, and you're just really tired. And I was really sick of chasing that feeling of being drunk. There were times when, you know, like I'd drink, or you'd have something else to keep you going as well, and that would, like, you know, this is just like, mate, it's Tuesday. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, you got kids now. I wanted to be a better dad.
Yeah.
It's just I can't fit it all in, and I've had a good time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I've had a very good time. I don't miss it. I feel like I've explored.
It's not like you missed out on...
Nah, man. I'm not getting FOMO.
Yeah.
I've pretty much explored every avenue of depravity with drugs and alcohol. Not really depravity even, just more exploration, and just I took it as far as I'm
willing to
go.
Yeah.
I've had a go at most things, and now I'm having a go at just life, just doing this.
I don't see... I've noticed a difference with, you know, a lot of people sort of around my age, and maybe it's sort of like I'm 35, so maybe it's sort of when you hit your 30s, a lot of people start to have, you know, those first signs of those crises when you sort of go, oh, you know, I hit 30. What am I doing with my life? Am I actually doing something?
Yeah.
Do I need to do more of something, less of whatever? So some people make sort of major life decisions around there, but
also hangovers fucking hurt.
Well,
mid-30s, it starts really hurting, real bad.
Well,
you know?
it's not
And
just a morning or a
it's
day.
the day. You fucked your whole day.
Yeah.
You know, and then also you've got anxiety on top of that, you know, so you're feeling that. And I know that's a biological response to the alcohol. It's not like you are going crazy, but, you know, your body's dipping in certain things and you've fucked up mad, you know, your electrolytes and your sugar levels and everything, and that could make you have these anxiety attacks or shakes or whatever. And also you probably might be having withdrawals from alcohol itself. So those things all come into play, but it can just sort of drive you a little bit mad. If you're feeling like that every day, that was the one thing that I felt. I was just like, man, if you made anybody else around you feel as bad as you're making yourself feel on a daily basis, they would not be your friend. That was one thing that really...
That could be cunt status.
Yeah. You're being a real cunt to yourself. Like, why are you doing this to yourself on a daily level? Why are you waking up every day feeling like shit, absolute shit, you know, and then waiting it out to a certain point in the day where you can justify having another beer or six
the hair of the dog.
Take the edge off.
Yeah.
This is not a good cycle to be on, you know, and I just needed to change that.
I think the thing I find difficult, and a lot of mates sort of similar age, is that I don't think many of us drink to the extent where we're getting plastered anymore. I think that sort of the 20s was sort of that era where you sort of go, you know, I'll be out all night, I don't care, whatever, that's tomorrow's problem, you know, I'll worry about that then. And it's all about excess and just, you know, pushing your limits in a way. And there's a bit of bragging rights around it as well. How much can you drink, etc. But I think the thing that I find now, I'm very hyper conscious of it, is that it's the association of things.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I used to have like jokes with mates. It'd be like, oh, beautiful day outside, sun's out. Oh, good beer drinking weather.
Let's get fucked up.
Yeah. Or it'd be like, oh, it's fucking raining, not much to do. Oh, fuck, let's have a beer then. And then you realise it doesn't really matter. You're just finding a way to justify the beer.
Drinking.
You know, fucking celebrating, Or, you know, oh, fuck, I've had a bad day. Let's take the edge off.
I deserve this. I mean,
and so it's the association thing.
There is a lot with parenting as well. Like, people are like, oh, it's wine time. I deserve this. There was a lot of that, like, self-gratitude and, what a tough day at the office, or tough day parenting, my children, I deserve this drinking, I deserve a bottle of wine, I've got to take the edge off life and like being an adult. And it's like, fucking grow up. I just got over it, you know. It's like, because I was clock watching, and at 5 o'clock every day, you know, my kids there, they're eating dinner. It's like, right, the day's done. None of them died. Nailed it. You deserve beers. Let's do this. And it's like, this fucking patting yourself on the back bullshit. You're lying to yourself, mate. Like, that was the thing that I was tired of. And I just needed that extra kick from my wife to just go, man, I reckon you got to stop. Yeah,
I think for me, like, I still enjoy a lot of the social aspects around it, and some of the environments that, you know, like I love the pub vibe. I love going down, having a drink and chilling out. But I mean, instead of having 10 or 15 beers years ago, my threshold where I actually start to get a bit slurry is about 4 to 5, if that. Yeah. But what I'm finding is that it becomes the answer to a lot of scenarios, and then you start to question yourself, go, like, does everything end with a beer? Like, does everything, it's like, surely there are other things in life that can hit that sweet spot the same way that you've programmed yourself for a drink, you know?
There's not.
And
just so you know.
Oh, thanks.
There's not. Like, it's now, you know, it took me a while to get used to that. Yeah. Like, in the first year where I'd stopped, it was hard. That was me. I'd do the gig and I'd go home and I'd just, like, smash a block of chocolate and watch Netflix. And I'm like, you quit for this. Yeah. You know, is this it? This is the best. This is as good as it gets, essentially.
Was that the problem? Like, you're trying to substitute one thing for another?
Yeah, you just need a sugar hit. You just need something. You've got, like, I need to have a bit of a, give me something. God, I need to feel. But it was just kind of, then after a while now, it's kind of all right. Like, I'm not chasing that. It was at Tool, like, that's the first time I've ever watched Tool sober. Yeah. And like, everyone else around me was drinking or drunk or high, or people were smoking joints in there, and you know, and I was like, man, I know how the first time I saw them, I was on ecstasy, and I was like, "This is fucking religious experience," you know. And
sounds like a typical sort of entry for tour.
Yeah, that was the Lateralis tour when I saw them. That was, you know, I was a fucking kid, and now as an adult, just sitting there watching it sober, I was like, right, you know, I just fell into it.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I like this fucking music heaps. I don't care. I'm just going to get into it, you know, and it was fine. No one knows. It's the same thing. Like, I'm out, I can go out to a bar and hang out and hold court and have a chat, and it's fine. But then also I can just fuck off too.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally fine with me.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Well, one thing that I actually helped me a lot was I started driving to a lot of gigs where you sort of had no choice.
Yeah.
And I've never been somebody that's sort of gone, oh, let's just roll the dice and see what happens. It's luckily for me, I've just gone, it's either yes or no.
Yeah.
And for me, like, going there and having in the back of my head going, I can leave whenever the fuck I want. If I'm not into this band, or, you know, I've walked around, everyone's seen me, I've shaken hands and said hi to people and whatever. And then I'm 2 songs into a band, I'm like, not feeling it. I'll just walk out.
Yeah.
But if I was drunk, I've already told myself that I'm here for the night. I'm getting comfortable. And before I leave, I have to go around the entire venue and say goodbye to everyone, which is going to take another 4 or 5 hours because I'm going to get sidetracked. I'm going to have more drinks.
Yeah.
And I'll probably be out until 6 o'clock the following morning.
Yeah.
Because that's just what you do when you're drinking.
Yeah,
but to go there and drive and know that you've got a responsibility of getting yourself home was such a novelty, because I was sort of like, oh, this is cool. Like, I've got control now. I can go whenever I want. And then when I started verbalizing, I'm like, oh, that's dumb. Like, that's a stupid thing. Like, shouldn't you be able to do it regardless of whether you're driving or not? But it was just a little coping mechanism that sort of got me over that sort of, I don't know, that mindset around it.
So that's the one thing with comedy that's kind of good. I mean, in Melbourne, it's a bit different, but up here in Sydney, it's not as sociable.
Yeah.
There's some rooms where you'll hang out and you'll after the show, you'll hang out with the comics and have a lock-in or whatever. And that was a lot of fun back in the day as well. But then a lot of the times, you know, people just do their gigs and disperse, you know, and particularly if you're out, you know, I mean, I did a gig in Lane Cove last night, and then, I mean, I had to leave straight away. Like, I walked off stage and out the venue, you know, because I had to go to another gig in Glebe.
Glebe.
And then, but even after that finished, even though, like, my best mate was there, like, we hung out, had a little chat, and then I was like, I'm going. You know, they were having beers, so they were going to stick around, and I thought, you know what, I just want to go home and watch Vikings. Yeah. And that's something I looked forward to doing, you know, great. Yeah, I'm going to fucking love that series. I'm going to go watch Vikings, you know, and that's fine.
And no doubt, like, as you said before, with like hangovers and things like that, I mean, the other appealing thing for me, and it's all about sort of being in the moment and actually thinking about it, because half the time you never think about it at the time, but I love the fact that I'm like, I'll be able to get up in the morning and be functional. Like, I'll be able to actually get some shit done. And it was kind of cool. It's like, oh, wow, like, you know, me committing to a night out on the piss, but also knowing that I'm actually committing to writing off the entire weekend. Yeah. I don't have to do that. And I can still go out and actually go to a gig and enjoy music and get other stuff done.
Man, I don't know how I got anything done. I don't know how I achieved things and made good career goals. Like, I landed roles or got good jobs on TV or managed to blag my way through tours and stuff like that and still head to, you know, like, I don't know. I was truly exhausted because and even after we'd had the 2 kids as well, like, I was still doing it. I stopped. So it's been 3 years. My youngest was probably not born. I don't think he's ever seen me with a drink in my hand, actually, which is pretty cool. But, like, even for the first 2 years of my eldest son's life, you know, I was out on the road, like, just in and out of bags, coming home, unpacking, washing, packing, gone again, you know. And I was tired. Like, I was feeling it in my body. And even now, like, I sometimes I just go, fuck, I'm really screwed. I haven't done anything. It's just age or whatever. I don't know how I drank. How did I balance that on top of how already fucked I feel? You know, I'm just trying to get one foot in front of the other. So,
did you find when you started to do sets sober, or were you always sober when you were doing your sets?
No, I'd always have a few. There was some when I was absolutely shit-faced. There was some when I was like, you know, I always had like at least two beers before I went on.
And it's just a thing just to take the edge off mentally,
it just became
a habit.
Like, it was a habit. It was a knee jerk. Like you'd get there, the first thing you get to any venue, and it's like, do you want a drink?
Yeah.
Everyone's like assuming you didn't hydrate on the way to the venue. That is always everyone's first thing. Want a drink? And there were venues. There was a venue where I used to walk in, and they didn't even ask me that. They'd turn around and grab a fucking 6-pack out of the fridge and hand me a 6-pack, and I was like, I've fucking made it. You know, that is such a weird thing to just say to yourself. I've made it, that they love me that much, they'll give me my own 6-pack for backstage. How ridiculous is that?
I am the king of comedy.
Yeah. This is it. This is good. This is the best. So it's, I think it was just sort of that, it just became... I mean, when you first start out in comedy, I don't know, I think it's probably the same with music as well. We got paid in beers.
Yep. Yeah, still do.
You didn't get money. You didn't get paid for a couple of years, man. So it's just like, come down, there's a tab, so you associate that job with drinking. There's no other fucking job.
The drinking's currency.
Drinking is currency. Yeah. And when I was a kid, you know, when I started out, we worked out in Melbourne, because I lived in Melbourne for 10 years. With me and I lived with 2 other comics, we worked out that we could drink for free every night of the week, and we would go to comedy venues, even if we weren't on. Or one of us was on, and the rest of us would drink as well on the back of that as well, and just clear that bloody bar tab out as quickly and as efficiently as possible. You know, and we thought that was excellent. And so you and our
saving heaps of money as well.
Yeah. But you have that bad. It is not a great relationship to have with alcohol. Yeah. You know, when you associate it with the thing that you're trying to make a living off.
Well, I think it's probably one of the biggest jokes out there with performers is that, you know, it's so ingrained in the culture where value's placed in alcohol, where venues are just laughing, going, man, like for us, like, you know, the cost price to buy a bottle or something, or, you know, a case of something, and give that to the artist, and they're chuffed over a 6-pack or a case or whatever it might be. Yeah. For us, it costs us, you know, nothing instead of actually paying them in cash, where it would be, you know, hundreds of dollars or whatever it might be, depending on the show. Yeah. Fucking bring it on. Oh, you want another 6-pack? Oh, yeah, why not? Oh, this venue's the best one out there. Everyone come here. We're and they're just laughing, going, guys, you don't understand business, but whatever. As long as you're happy, as long as you're smiling, you know. It's I mean, you know, the biggest negotiations. I mean, we're lucky as a band that we're pretty self-sufficient financially, but, you know, the biggest negotiations that you have, apart from what's on stage with your backline, your gear, is the type of booze that you have. And I mean, we're a bit older now, and half the band doesn't really drink anymore. But it was like the brand of beer, and so we're like, oh, we don't want none of that cheap shit. You know, like, give us something half decent. Or, you know, Tim, our front guy, he liked bourbon, so we're trying to negotiate a bottle of bourbon, which was always difficult. They're like, spirits, like, no spirits, beers only. Yeah. And so, but it was there's so much energy placed into that part of it, and it's like, fuck, who gives a shit, you know? And then it got to a point where it's like, well, you know, what are we going to have to eat? And then suddenly, oh, actually, that's probably more important to eat, and then work out, you know, is that going to be included in what we're doing, or do we need to go and find somewhere? And then so suddenly the priorities started to shift a bit more. But I still hear it from peers that play in bands, and, you know, they're comparing their riders and going, oh, well, yeah, I got VB, oh, fuck that, I got fucking Little Creatures, and so they're, you know, oh, that venue's so much better than this one. But, you know, it's it only goes so far, you know, it's not sustainable. And then you sort of, going back to what we were saying earlier with bands and why some bands aren't cutting through, it's like, well, if that's the business sense, the negotiate over your alcohol rider,
then your actual
over your fees. Well, there's probably only so far you can go.
Yeah, what's your priority there, right? Yeah, totally.
Did you have sort of comfort issues getting on stage when you sort of made that call and go, all right, I'm...
No, because I'd done it before. Like, I'd stopped there was a couple of times where I took a few months off it here or there and got up on stage and would perform sober. And no, like, I was quite empowered by it, actually. Like, I got up and went, right, this is good. And now it's like, I love it. Like, I actually love it more.
Do you feel like you're more in the pocket? Like,
I'm right in that pocket. I can slip right into it and I'm in control of it. And now I was really annoyed because I looked back over about 3 different shows that I filmed like years ago, because I thought, oh yeah, I might get this little bit out of it. I'll snip it, and that'll be cool, little shareable content.
Bit of content.
I don't think I'm ever going to put it out there because I know I've had beers. Like I can hear it in my voice. There's a little slur there, and I was like, oh, you sounded like that for a long time, mate. Like that's, I don't know if that's a good thing anymore, you know, which is that's kind of unfortunate, you know. And there's other people, I remember like some people, I would do a gig and then I'd get off and they'd be like, oh man, you were so hammered. It was so funny. And I was like, I wasn't even that hammered. Like I didn't think that I was hammered, you know. I wasn't aware of what I looked like on stage or anything like that. But no, like I can find now, I just sort of get in and boom, it's just a switch and off we go. And it's like, it's great.
We, I mean, when was the last time we toured was last year, and I'd do a similar thing to what you said before. Like you get to the venue and, you know, or you'd be looking around going, oh, is a bar open? So you go and have a drink or whatever. So for me, like I'd still have a couple of drinks before I get on stage, but you know, every once in a while for whatever, you know, maybe you do, I don't know, like an early show or an all ages show or something like that where there's no booze around, and so, you know, you're not sort of stressing about it, but it's sort of like, oh, okay. And then so you get on stage and suddenly it's like, oh, my little habit of like taking the edge off, it's not there anymore. It's sort of like I've lost my security blanket.
Yeah.
And so then you're standing on stage going, oh fuck, I'm far more self-aware of everything I'm doing now.
You are.
And for me, like I always associated alcohol with losing your inhibitions and sort of being a bit loose and a bit more sort of into it and feeling the groove and all that sort of stuff and putting on a show. Because we used to get guys that come up after a gig and you'd be sloppy as all hell. It'd be a loose show. And you have guys come up and go, that was fucking mad. That was great. And then you'd have another show where you didn't get a chance to drink, or maybe you had one drink and pretty much sober. You play the show and you're locked in. And you get off the stage and you're almost like patting each other on the back going, fuck, we were on like one of our best shows. Yeah. And those same guys come up past and go, yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as that other one, but like, you guys didn't seem like you're getting into it as much. And you're like, oh, fuck. And so then in your head, you're thinking, oh, well, what we probably need to do is booze up a bit more so we're a bit more looser. Yeah. And then it's this false narrative in your head.
I'm with that. There was one time I remember I was at this comedy store and Ray Badron was emceeing and he was joking around like every time he came out in between an act, he'd gotten a different weird cocktail from the bar. And so they just got weirder and weirder and bigger and bigger. And it was just really silly and fun. And by the time I was coming on, I was headlining. He had a bottle of Jim Beam. He just brought the bottle of Jim out, and there was about 3 inches left of it in the bottle, which is still quite a lot of alcohol. Yeah. And he wouldn't drink it, and I got on the mic from backstage, and I was just yelling, "Skull, skull, skull." And so then the whole crowd was like, skull, skull, and he just wouldn't do it. He's like, oh, nah, you know. And then he just sort of brought me on to close the night. Yeah. And I just went up and just grabbed the bottle.
Here's my opportunity.
Yeah, and I drank the whole fucking thing on stage in front of everybody and then did the gig. And I was supposed to do 20 minutes and I ended up doing 45 because I was so wasted. But like, it was so funny for them to watch. The comedians that were all there were just like, that night was electric. It was fucking chaos. Oh my God, it was so amazing just to watch you slowly get more and more inebriated while you were going through it. But then you were going on all these mad tangents and fucking going all over the place. And then you held it together and it was like a fucking piece of art. And I was like, mate, I don't even know what the fuck happened. You know, it was just... It was insane. Yeah. Like, it was truly insane behaviour. But they were like, that was one of the best. It's so good when you do that. I was like, no, it's not. That's fucking destructive. That's really, I'm going to die.
It's not sustainable.
You understand? I'll fucking kill myself if I do that, dickhead.
Yeah, you know? Other people have tried this.
Yeah. So now, like, I mean, for the first, like, 6 months, I reckon, when I was sober, I really hid behind material. Like, as I just get that done, and I felt like a bit robotic just because I was like, get it done. But now it's a lot more fluid and... I really find that I can step out and do whatever. Like, I just kind of enjoy that freedom of thought and I like that self-awareness and also awareness of the crowd more. You know, there's times when you're on stage and you've had a bit to drink and you think it's crushing, you're doing so good because you feel good because the dopamine's just going apeshit in your brain anyway. But it's not that great. It's not that good. No. You know, so now you can be quite alert of those sorts of things. And I think that's really important for a performer to know what's landed right, what hasn't.
You don't get better, do you? I mean, you just think you're shit hot all the time.
You just put up this wall, you put up this veil, you don't give a shit. Whereas, like, I give a shit. I want engagement. I want it to work. I want it to, you know, there are certain bits that You want to go on this thing together, this experience together with the crowd. So, like I like it. I like now knowing how everyone's feeling or picking up a vibe or
bit more in tune with
being way more in tune with it.
Yeah, it's funny because it's you sort of look back and sort of think about all sort of those lulls or those gutter moments, and you just think, majority of them have had some link to alcohol in some way,
All of our heroes are fucked up though, Like you look at anyone in a band and they're all just fucked up. And same with most of, like, all, I mean, Jesus, Bill Hicks just exploring with mushrooms. And you're like, well, I have to do that too. I have to do mushrooms because I want to be Bill Hicks.
They're celebrated for that. It's like the metal guys when they go sober. And it's like, oh, fuck, I wish he was back on the junk again.
Yeah.
They didn't, all the classic albums, they're all off their face. And so then there's this false narrative again where it's like, well, I need to be on a different astral plane to be able to take it at all and create something that's going to be, world changing. But, I don't know. I mean,
it doesn't sustain itself, man.
Well,
it just doesn't. I wrote some of my best bits when I was not drunk, but through my drinking years, for sure.
Yeah.
But I've also written some way more insightful and funny shit now that I like. I don't think it's. I feel like the stuff that I've written now is better. There's some good bits from back then, but that's a different sort of perspective. You know what I mean? It's not like I've had my own some kind of monster moment and I'm James and I've got to fucking slip away and go to Iceland or wherever he went and shoot some fucking bears and come back because I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Like it's not. But you do get sort of writer's block. But I never really was one of those people that was like, right, I need to write something. I'm going to have a couple of beers because I'd get distracted. Yeah. I'd end up like, listening to music or playing guitar or fucking watching YouTube videos of bands or comedians, and then I get nothing done.
Yeah.
Because that's what alcohol does. It's like, I'm on an adventure now. I'm having a day adventure. And I've written one fucking sentence.
Yeah, everything's awesome. And screw the man, screw everything. Life's all about the now, not later on. Live in the moment. That was always like the Sunday sessions. They were the worst, like especially when you had like a typical 9-to-5 job and you'd be like sitting somewhere, like especially when I moved to Sydney and living in Marrickville, and you'd be at like, I don't know, Vic on the Park or something on a Sunday arvo, and you're sitting out the back and it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, I should be wrapping it up. And it's like, fuck this, fuck the man. Like, I don't want to be, just doing 9-to-5 grind all the time. Just like, that's a tomorrow problem. And, fuck, who cares? And then the next morning you're like on the bus heading into the city, like barely like keeping it together, trying to hold the vomit down, alcohol seeping out of your pores and your skin is sweating and it's like 8:30 in the morning and you're just like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot again.
I've done that heaps as well. I've made a lot of television like that.
Yeah.
Where we'd be like filming and then I'd like, you shoot for like 10 hours and then you go to the pub with the crew and then you're absolutely shit-faced and then you get up again and you got to do it again and we're all in it together, powering through, just sweating through it. And then that day, that's the worst one too, because then you're like, oh my God, we got through that. We've got to go and get fucked up again now to celebrate the fact we actually managed to pull that off.
Yeah.
That's one thing I really am disappointed in myself for not enjoying. I enjoyed that to a different degree, like not actually being a bit more present. And it's not like I didn't do a bad job because I was young, my resilience was there, but like I think you live in the now more being sober. Like there's no more being now right here than this. I can't escape this. I'm in this now doing it. And nor do I want to escape it. I think it was more me trying to escape it. You're not really living in the now. You're trying to get away from the now. That's why you're getting fucking trashed,
Well,
you're trying to get away from the fact you have to get a bus to that job, That's it, man.
I'm getting cold sweats just thinking about it.
It's rough, dude.
It's very rough.
I don't miss it. I like waking up and knowing where all my stuff is. I know where I parked the car, and I know everything I said and did. There is a peace that comes to one when you behave like that now,
Yeah, that'll get me thinking. But I'm just thinking about every nightmare I've had over the years. Yeah, waking up somewhere I shouldn't have been, or
piecing it together.
I've left guitars at gigs. I've left equipment. I've most of the time I've been lucky. I've been able to retrieve it, but there's been stuff I've lost and just money poured down the drain, lost wallets. Trying to chase all that shit up and and then the interpersonal issues and dramas that you have, and it's just...
Totally.
Yeah, there you go. It's a bit taxing.
It is taxing. I lost a wedding ring, mate.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, you know...
All right.
When that's happened, pull your head in. Shall we end it on that?
I think so. I'm going to let you escape this podcast. Cam, I'll chuck some links and shit so people can check you out and follow all that content you're putting out there.
Sweet content.
All those subtitled Insta stories.
It's all there for you.
Excellent. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Why don't you reach out to Cam and say, how you going? By going to camnight.com.au. You can search for Cam on Facebook by going to Facebook. Yeah, great work, Andy. I'm pretty sure the link is facebook.com/camnightcomedy. Either way, there'll be links in the show notes, and if you click through on your podcast player, there should be some little clickable links in there. So stab your digits against the screen, you should be able to get through to Cam's little world. He's got his Straighty 180 brand new show. If you're in Perth, go to the State Theatre on the 1st of May. That's an order. Go there. Go to the State Theatre. And if you're in Sydney, I'm going to give you orders as well. Go to the Factory Theatre from the 6th to the 10th of May. That's right. Go to every single night. I'm pretty sure that's part of the Sydney Comedy Festival. Probably should have checked before I started recording this outro, but that's how I roll. I'm a professional here. But either way, click through and discover Cam's world. And if you can make it to a show, that'd be fantastic. As I mentioned in every single episode of the Andy Social Podcast, reach out to these guests, reach out to Cam, reach out to anybody that's been on the podcast previously and let them know what you thought of the chat. I want the Andy Social team to give their love to all these people that have been very generous with their time, copped the ear bashing from yours truly, and hopefully it just encourages more and more people to want to be part of this little podcast of mine. I get a lot out of it myself, but hopefully the people that jump on board and have a chat with me get something out of it as well. So please, if you've got a couple of seconds, it usually takes a few seconds, click your links, shoot a message, shoot an email, leave a post somewhere, tag them, whatever, and just give them a little bit of love. That'd be fantastic. If you want to reach out to me, I've had like half a sip of beer and I'm fading fast. You can go to andydowling.net to learn more about me, our band Lord, all the podcasts I've been involved with. So whether it be, you're listening to this podcast, but if you want to check out the other episodes, it's all over there. Self-starter podcast, Nod to the Old School podcast, blah, 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 heaps of different stuff. All the social media links are there. Larry's winding up in the background, and it's time to depart. So until next week, folks, another Crazy Talk episode coming early next week, another guest episode coming next Thursday. Hope you're enjoying it, and we'll be back soon. I don't know if you can hear that. Ta-ta. I had to add this part in.